Okay. Hello, everybody. This is my true face. I learned a valuable lesson. If you do what your wife wants, she will want what you want, and you will both be in agreement. I wore a ridiculous disguise, a rain parka, last week on the air because my wife was afraid that I would get myself in trouble with my big mouth. And time passed. What I said what I said. I did not cause any trouble with it, and we are not being shadowed by armed assassins, at least not yet. Plus, my wife ended up agreeing with me for the most part, and so she lets me show my true face, which is nothing much to look at anyway. Okay, here we go. This week, the top news is 2 more people were arrested for praying on the Temple Mount and removed from the Temple Mount, of course. Another Arab died trying to kill a Jew with a knife, shot by Magavniks. And Donald Trump is the presumptive nominee for the Republican Party in the United States. And after studying him a little bit and reading most of the book by him and listening to some of his speeches, I'm okay with it. But let's talk about Israel and the United States. Oddly, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton are very fond of saying that the bond between Israel and the United States is unbreakable, which, when they say it, means that they can screw us over and there's not a thing we can do about it, because we need them and they like us. I think there are people on cell blocks that form unbreakable bonds with weaker, smaller cellmates, and it's a very similar relationship. So, what is the relationship between Israel and the United States? I don't believe myself that it's unbreakable. In fact, it's a very seriously flawed relationship. And thanks to the present occupant of the White House, is a broken relationship in many ways. But you have to ask what's called in Yiddish a klutzkasha. It means the essential question. What's wrong with the Israeli and the American relationship? And what's wrong with it is one simple word: oil. The most important, most powerful natural resource in the world today. It's like cotton back in the days of the Civil War. Oil is king. And what is it? It's a natural resource. The real truth about natural resources is there's no such a thing besides air and water, which is needed to sustain life on the planet. Until somebody came along and figured out what oil was good for, it was sticky stuff that came out of the ground and ruined farmland and pasture land and made it impossible to build anything because it kept on catching fire or things kept on sinking into it. It was a nuisance. Then somebody discovered that you could make machinery go with oil, and it could lubricate the machinery, and you could make plastic from it, and do all sorts of useful things with oil. And then it became a natural resource. And suddenly, all the desert land in the Middle East, from Iran until Libya, became extremely valuable because it was chock full of oil. And oddly enough, Israel did not seem to have any of it. So they thought at the time. And And that is the basic flaw between the United States and Israel's relationship. There's oil. America needs it. It needs gobs and gobs and gobs of oil, more oil all the time. And Israel doesn't have it. All we got is this democracy stuff and reputation of being the chosen people and coming home after 2,000 years of exile. It's all very good, but where's the oil? The Arabs have the oil. The Arabs have more oil, more people, and more land than us. And yet they want our little triangle of a country, which it seems from ancient times until now has been what world geopolitics has pivoted on. Here's little Israel, there's the rest of the world, gigantic superpowers fighting it out, and we don't get any oil. It looks like that might change because there are huge shale deposits in Israel, and shale can be made into oil, but until recently, the process was so dirty and polluting that it would have made a hash out of all the other many agricultural and ecological functions of the land of Israel. It may have made it into a wasteland. But one thing that we Jews have plenty of, and that's imagination. And somebody has discovered a way to change shale into oil that not only doesn't pollute, but creates some potable or arable water. Somehow it's going to be usable, and it's not going to be polluted. And so we are going to have enough shale oil to rival Saudi Arabia with its natural oil. All well and good, but in the meantime, until we're actually putting the oil sheiks out of business with our new cleanly produced shale, we don't got oil. And Saudi Arabia, Iran, Libya, Iraq, and the smaller Arab sheikdoms on the Arabian Peninsula, all have got oil. And America, since they need the oil, they need them. They don't need us. They just like us. So what's a Jew to do? We can't get our shale deposits online any faster than we are. In the meantime, there's all this international pressure. They want us to commit suicide so that the Saudis and the Iranians will be happy, and the Palestinians, parenthetically, will be miserable because they will have the Saudis and the Iranians and the Iraqis telling them what to do if we commit suicide. Instead, they have some Jews whom they consider subhuman telling them what to do, and this really rankles them, so they want us to commit suicide. So we can't really rely on the United States as an ally. They need oil. We don't got it. The Muslims do have oil. And not only that, but we don't have an unbreakable relationship with the United States. We have a flawed relationship with the United States, which has to, because they need oil, they have to keep on pressuring us to commit suicide, even if they don't really want us to. And one wonders sometimes whether they really want us to. So, where do we turn? Do we become more and more isolated from Europe and the United States? Yeah, but they're insane. They think that we are the cause of troubles in the Middle East, when the real cause of troubles is the fact that there is a very warlike religion here that believes that it's the manifest destiny to conquer the world. And here we are in the mid, where our homeland, our promised land, is a land bridge between Africa, Asia, and Europe. And they want it. They want it more than anything, not because they care about the Palestinians. They have nothing but contempt for the Palestinians and could care less about them. They want our land bridge so they can go all over Europe and Asia and Africa, conquering everybody. And there are people in the United States, in Great Britain, in Europe, who think that they can tap into this desire to conquer everything. They could be the one to put a leash on the dog and get it to hunt. The dog won't hunt. The dog is not at all stupid. The world of Islam has its own agenda and doesn't think very much of Western intrigues. So to whom do we turn? Well, the truth is we're not alone. Aside from God, who everybody claims is on their side, and we are the main claimant. And after all, we live here on miracles. We have the strongest case for it. Aside from God, we are absolutely not alone in the Middle East. In the Middle East, you have numerous sects, different versions of Christianity, Zoroastrianity, Druzianism, and you have entire countries that are non-Islamic. You have Armenia, you have South Sudan, you have India, which is huge, not as big as the United States, but it's huge and powerful and getting stronger all the time. And all of us have one thing in common. We are Eastern minorities. We live among a sea of Sunni and Shiite Muslims. And among these minorities are also Islamic minorities. You have Sufis, you have ethnic minorities such as the Kurds and the Baluchis, you have Alawites and Ibrahimites, all of whom are considered outcasts, whose the Baathists have on occasions gassed Kurds. The Iranians oppress the Baluchis because they're not Iranians. The Ibrahimites are considered heretics. The Yazidis, we've all, I think, seen at least a few of the pictures of what has been done to the Yazidis before we became too disgusted to look. We're all minorities. We're all in the East. And if we don't hang together, we'll all hang separately. So our natural allies are not the United States, but India, Armenia, Greece, South Sudan, and a greater Kurdistan, which is a separate ethnic, linguistic, and religious group among Muslims who have been oppressed for decades, who are being denied the right to their own homeland. And because it doesn't result in them getting cheaper oil, the West could care less about them. They're moderate, they're reasonable people. They've managed to become autonomous in Iraq and in Syria during the recent civil war that's been raging there. They're, at least for the Middle East, pretty okay. So what we need is EMA. We need the Eastern Minorities Alliance. We need to make important friends. We of course must value what friendship we have in the United States and Europe. and in Canada and other Western places, but we have to realize their news happens on TV. Our news happens down the street, or an hour, or a few minutes down the road. And we can sometimes hear the news very loudly outside our front door. And in India, it's the same, although not quite as frequently. In South Sudan, it's worse. These are our allies because they know that they are threatened. And they're not threatened by an upsetting image on TV, they're threatened with annihilation, just as we are. So there is where we should seek our friends. And there is where we can also serve a valuable purpose, which is to form an association of mutual protection between the various Eastern Christian enclaves, between the great Hindu enclave of India, and among the various offbeat Islamic groups that are also threatened. We have a very big alliance. I don't say to burn our bridges with the West. They are very valuable people to be friends with, but don't put all your eggs in one basket. Let's reach out to the Baluchis, to the Kurds, to India, of course, to the South Sudanese, and have an alliance of friends that we can trust to remain our friends, that we can trust to not abuse the relationship because they have the upper hand. And then once we are insulated by our own indigenous allies in the regions of the Middle and Far East, we can approach friendship with the United States, with Europe, or with some European countries anyway, with Canada, as equals, perhaps not as strong, but at least with our own base from which we are collectively strong, us Eastern minorities. And we can demand that our needs be at least addressed. That the Yazidis are not allowed to die by the hundreds. I don't think there were thousands of them. That they're not slaughtered by the hundreds while nobody does anything because they're simply not important enough. They are Eastern minorities. They are part of the alliance. So is Israel. And I think that if the Ministry of Foreign Relationships in Israel, the Misrad HaChutz, is not aggressively in this direction, they very well ought to. And if they are not, and if they refuse to, they are fools. And they can put that in their pipe and smoke it. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Get me off the air. Stop the broadcast.
No.
Okay.
Better.
Okay, you got something to say to that.
Alright, so now is the weather. So let's see Tel Aviv. Broadcasting last week. Anyways, here's Tel Aviv for tomorrow. Tomorrow is 71 centimeters and 59 Fahrenheit. So, for Jerusalem, tomorrow in Jerusalem, so, it's 18 centimeters and 65 Fahrenheit, partly cloudy. Now let's see Tel Aviv again for the back. That's like the sound of music. Plus 21 centimeters and 71 Fahrenheit in Tel Aviv. Now let's see Haifa. Tomorrow. Alright, so tomorrow's 20.7 centimeters and 70 Fahrenheit. A light rain. So anyways, we opened up a new forum website for names of people that were killed by terrorists. It's called Lee Tevin. Those that don't know how to spell it, Bliteven. Anyways, so subscribe us on YouTube and you'll get to see us every time we go on air. Well, that's all for tonight. Next week we're gonna be on. I'm not sure if it's gonna be on a Thursday because it's Yom Ha'atzmaut. So next week it'll be either on Thursday or Wednesday. At 11 o'clock. At 11 o'clock p.m. Jerusalem time. So that's all for tonight. See you next.